My supposedly dead husband lying on the same bed with my best friend. My husband gave his life to save mine, or so I believed. All he left behind was a debt of tens of millions and a 1-month-old son. I worked tirelessly, raising the child while struggling to pay off the crushing debts he left behind. But one day, my world shattered again. I stumbled upon a scene that froze my blood. My supposedly dead husband lying on the same bed with my best friend. Axel, you're as cunning as ever, my friend said with a smirk. You embezzled all the company's funds, faked your death, and dumped your clueless wife with the debts. Genius. Axel chuckled. Who told her to be such a fool? She didn't even realize the child she gave birth to was a test tube baby we created. When she was in labor, crying to save the baby, I almost died laughing. So, the friend teased, when do you plan to come clean? Axel's smile grew smug. No rush. Let her toil away paying the debts and raising the kid for us. Once she's done, I'll reclaim everything. Her hard work, and the boy. Then, we can live the high life. I hid my trembling hands and my tears, pretending I knew nothing. Since Axel passed away, my best friend frequently found excuses to visit. Sometimes, she claimed she was worried I might fall into depression and needed someone to guide me through widowhood. Other times, she insisted I couldn't raise the child alone and came to help share the burden. Over the years, she had crossed countless lines in the name of helping. She visited my son every few days without fail. She organized elaborate birthday parties for him annually. She took him out alone to celebrate Children's Day, and even Mother's Day, as if she were the one entitled to those moments. Even parent-teacher meetings weren't spared. She attended every single one, taking the initiative as though she were his rightful guardian. Her devotion wasn't maternal, it was possessive, and I let her believe she was succeeding. Just as she and Rowan were locked in one of their overly affectionate embraces, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Aunt Vivian from next door, standing with a well-dressed middle-aged man. Before I could say anything, Aunt Vivian ushered him in. Arabella, she began with a smile. This is my distant cousin, Quentin Blackthorne. He has a car, a house, and savings, but he's still single. She didn't wait for my reaction and continued. You've had it so hard, raising a child alone and working to pay off debts. I thought, why not introduce you to someone who could help lighten your load? I've heard about your situation from my aunt, Quentin said. But seeing you in person, you're even more beautiful than I imagined. My best friend's expression darkened. She instinctively pulled Rowan closer, wrapping her arms around him protectively. Her face, which moments ago had been full of warmth, now brimmed with hostility. But she didn't say anything at first. Instead, she stared at me intently, her eyes urging me to speak. I turned to Aunt Vivian and Quentin, offering a polite but firm response. Thank you for your kind intentions, but I just want to focus on paying off my husband's debts and raising my son, I said. Seeing that I wouldn't budge, Aunt Vivian sighed. She left with Quentin, their footsteps fading into the quiet of the evening. As soon as the door closed behind them, my best friend clicked her tongue and crossed her arms. Tisk, what kind of person is that? She said, her voice dripping with disdain. Our Rowan is so outstanding. Someone like that isn't fit to be his father. She turned to me, her expression softening into one of faux sincerity. Arabella, Axel treated you so well when he was alive, and he even gave his life for you, she said, her tone earnest. You must take care of those debts and Rowan, or you'd be dishonoring his sacrifice. Pausing for effect, she added with a hint of urgency. Besides, what if you remarried, and that man ended up mistreating our Rowan? He's the child you carried for 10 months and gave birth to with your life. I nodded faintly. You're right. Seeing my apparent agreement, my best friend's lips curved into a secretive smile. I worked tirelessly, juggling jobs and responsibilities, while slowly mending the gaping hole in Axel's company. As the seasons turned, my son grew taller and more independent. But my best friend grew bolder. At first, she'd only come by to see my son. Now she often took him away for entire nights. I knew what she was doing. She was taking him to reunite with Axel's family. My son, too young to understand the implications, was delighted. He eagerly awaited her visits, especially on holidays, when she'd promised to pick him up for outings. Her behavior toward me shifted as well. Her once concealed disdain now showed openly in her eyes. Then came my son's birthday. Early in the morning, my best friend arrived, carrying a cake and gifts. Her enthusiasm was palpable, her actions overbearing. After the meal, my best friend couldn't wait to turn to my son with a bright smile. Rowan, tell your godmother what your wish is. Godmother will do everything to make it come true. My son hesitated for a moment, glancing at me for reassurance before replying, I hope the family debt can be paid off quickly. His words made my best friend's eyes light up with understanding. She turned to me with a serious expression. Arabella, look at how thoughtful Rowan is. Even his wish is about the family debt. You've worked so hard all these years. How's everything coming along? Their expectant gazes locked on me, and I offered a small smile. Soon, I said calmly. Axel's company is operating again. Once it's fully back on track, not only will the debt be paid off, but the company might even see a strong comeback. Hearing this, both of them broke into laughter, their relief palpable. My best friend turned to my son, her tone brimming with encouragement. Rowan, you should also work harder and focus on your studies. When the company flourishes, you can help your mother manage it. Rowan nodded enthusiastically, his eyes shining with determination. As the company regained its footing, partnerships blossomed, orders flooded in, and the market value soared. Before long, I had paid off every last cent of the debt. And the company? It didn't just recover, it grew exponentially, becoming larger and more successful than ever before. A few years later, my son achieved what many could only dream of. He was simultaneously admitted to Harvard University and Stanford University. Meanwhile, the company I had painstakingly rebuilt finally reached a monumental milestone, its public public listing. On the day of the listing, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Crowds of people gathered, and reporters swarmed the venue, their cameras capturing every moment. Voices of admiration echoed through the air. As I stood there, accepting their words of praise with a calm smile, I noticed the very same neighbors who once gossiped about me now looking at me with respect and admiration. But just when I thought the day couldn't take a sharper turn, my best friend appeared, and she wasn't alone. Walking confidently beside her, wearing a familiar, yet unnervingly composed expression, was my husband. Everyone at the scene froze in disbelief when Axel stepped forward, alive and well. Isn't that Arabella's husband Axel? He's alive? And isn't the woman with him Alara Whitestone, her best friend? What's going on here? The murmurs of shock swirled through the crowd, but Alara silenced them by pulling out a document, a paternity test report. She approached me, a smirk playing on her lips. Arabella, your husband never died. He's been with me all along, she declared, her voice dripping with mockery. That test tube baby you had all those years ago? It wasn't yours and Axel's. It was mine and Axel's fertilized egg. Her words were deliberate, cruel. I am Rowan's biological mother. Letting him call you mom for 18 years was merely my way of repaying you for giving birth to him. Now it's time you return him to me. Gasps rippled through the crowd, followed by outrage. This is unthinkable. How could they do something so vile? Cheating was bad enough, but tricking her into raising their child while leaving her to shoulder debts, that's pure evil. And now they show up after she's paid it all off and made a success of herself? They're here to claim the fruits of her labor. How heartless can two people be? As the crowd erupted with condemnation, Axel stepped forward, his expression calm, even self-righteous. I understand that many of you might have strong opinions about me, he began, feigning sincerity. Arabella has indeed been good to me and made many sacrifices, but a forced relationship is never sweet. Just because someone is good to you doesn't mean you're obligated to stay with them forever. He spoke with conviction, presenting himself as a misunderstood man. I didn't bother addressing his shameless words. Instead, I turned to my son, looking him squarely in the eye. What do you think? I asked, my voice calm but firm. Rowan hesitated, his gaze flickering to the paternity test in Alara's hand, before settling on me. He took a deep breath and said, his tone steady, Mom, this will be the last time I call you that. The words hung heavy in the air. I am now a student of Stanford University and Harvard University, he continued, his expression unreadable. I believe my success is due not only to my hard work, but also to the excellent genes of my biological parents. And you, my son said coldly, are just a nanny who has served me for 18 years. Blood is thicker than water. I hope you won't stand in the way of our family's reunion. His words cut through me like a blade. Alara smirked triumphantly, stepping forward as if to twist the knife. Arabella, she sneered, if you want a son, why not give birth to one yourself? Stop clinging shamelessly to my child. Before I could respond, Axel abruptly pulled out a divorce agreement and tossed it onto the table with a 100 yuan bill. The company is my premarital property, he declared with a condescending sneer. Sign the papers, hand over the company and the boy, and let our family of 3 reunite. Consider this $100 your compensation for all those years of managing my business and raising my son. The crowd erupted in outrage. Unbelievable. They're treating her like a servant. $100? Does he think that's enough to cover years of sacrifice and hard work? This isn't just bullying. This is despicable. Arabella, don't let them walk over you. Fight back. The air was thick with indignation. As the onlookers rallied to my defense, some even stepped forward, offering to help me file a lawsuit and reclaim what was rightfully mine. But amidst the clamor, Axel and Alara remained unnervingly composed, as if they had anticipated every reaction. They stood there, smug and self-assured, certain of their victory. I, however, met their arrogance with a calm smile. Very well, I said evenly. I will help your family. Gasps rippled through the crowd as I picked up the pen and signed the divorce agreement without hesitation. The room fell silent, save for the scratching of the pen on paper. Both Axel and Alara froze for a moment, visibly startled by my compliance. Then, as if reassured by my apparent capitulation, they exchanged triumphant smiles and eagerly examined the document. After confirming it was legitimate, their grins widened. Finally, Alara said, her voice dripping with satisfaction, you've made the right choice. As they reveled in their perceived victory, I spoke again, my tone light, but laced with something they couldn't quite place. Since you've given me such a wonderful surprise, it's only right that I return the favor. Axel frowned, the smugness on his face faltering. A big gift? He echoed warily. What kind of gift? The crowd, still reeling from the drama, now turned their attention to me, curiosity lighting up their faces.